Oh, Jeanette, welcome. I wasn't expecting to see you like this. You're not in my house somewhere, are you? Because that would be very awkward. I'd have to get out of my pajamas quickly.
No, Michael. Like you, I'm here through the magic of technology. Today is all about the power of technology that has changed the way we need to imagine our futures. Technology has changed our lives so much that I am able to speak to you today from this beautiful resort in Bora Bora.
Hello, what are you doing here? I told you that I've got this, that you didn't need to be here today. Enjoy Bora Bora.
Oh, I am sorry. I didn't get the memo. I will go now.
Afternoon, everybody. It really is amazing to have all of you here. And you will hear this from me and my team hundreds of times today, just saying thank you for being here in person. As you can see, technology is great, technology is powerful, but I think we all agree that nothing beats the opportunity to spend time together. Nothing beats the opportunity to have this conversation, to have a nice gin or a drink afterwards. So we do want to invite you to spend the afternoon with us, enjoy every minute. I know, and this is our fourth and last event of the kind that we've had this over the last week and a half. And I know that when you got the invite, you probably thought, what on earth is Momentum going to do with me for 4 hours? Well, I can trust you. When it's all over, you're going to say, what? I can't believe that was 4 hours. So please stay with us. Also, specifically, to not miss Mike Stopford, our guest speaker right at the end. Mike is amazing, and I tell you, I've listened to him for 4 times now, and every time I learn something new. So from my side, really thank you. My team and I love having you here. And for us, to make it personal, we've said often in our engagements with you that for us at Momentum investments is personal. And I think nothing beats that opportunity to build these relationships, not just between ourselves and you, but also with your clients. So my topic today is really all about a value proposition in a disrupted world. I'm not going to really talk much about Momentum or about us, but actually want to just leave you with a few thoughts that I hope will make you think. Think about the world differently. Think about a disrupted, different world, and maybe leave you with some ideas of how things could change and what we all need to adapt to. Now, I suppose right now, you're probably doing roadshows with everybody, and everybody's starting with COVID. Everybody has something to say about COVID and the effect and the impact that COVID has had on all of us and on our world and how we have set ourselves up. I only want to touch on that briefly. The first one is we know how it completely disrupted global economies around the world. In fact, if I think back, the last time we saw you, I was in the room with all of you, was in late February 2020. Little did we know what was waiting for us. And yet here we are, back together again with lots of tales to tell about how we were holed up in our homes and how things have changed for us. But I think let's use that today as a springboard for where we go. What's more important for me is the fascinating change that we all were forced to go through. Things that maybe 2-3 years ago we were thinking about. I'll share with you that with my commute to Centurion and to Joburg every week, I had all the technology set up in my home. I had it there for 2.5 years. I never switched it on because I was on a plane on a Sunday night, every night of the first 2 years since I've rejoined Momentum, and back every Friday night. And then COVID hit, and suddenly I have this choice. I can work from home in Cape Town, I can travel. Often I travel to Joburg and then I sit in the office there teaming or Zooming with my team that's kind of in Pretoria. But how completely have our lives changed? And I think for me, it is also that our clients now suddenly think differently and expect us to do business with them in a different way. Digital disruption, reshaping client expectations. And it is an absolute fact that clients now expect us to do business with them differently. And again, could you have imagined 2 years ago that you could actually sit and have an elderly client and actually do a Zoom meeting with them? It that like never even contemplated that it was necessary. And yet today, they also want and expect us to do business with them differently. This is an interesting reshape of client expectations. And there's a report, a World InsurTech report, that actually has come out every single year for, I think, 13 or so years now, that have actually shown that clients' willingness to buy insurance directly from a tech company, an InsurTech or a fintech company, not an insurer, have actually increased from 17% in 2016 to 44% in 2020. Now, if that is not a threat to all of us in this room today, then I don't know what is. It's a threat to you because it means that your client is actually willing to at least think about buying insurance from Google, not even an insurer, or Amazon, or whoever comes up with these opportunities. But it's also as much a great threat to us and our existence, for our partnership, but also for where we're going to find our clients in future. Investing trends are very, very different. Right now, every single asset manager in South Africa is having what I would call a little bit of an existential crisis. With the offshore limits having been increased to 45% recently, all of us have to think very hard and very carefully. And I would challenge you to think and ask those questions from your asset manager. Thinking about how are they going to manage the 45%. It's one thing to kind of outsource 25% of your assets to someone else. It's another to have your own presence, your own capabilities to manage those assets. And I can tell you now, it's a big crisis for all of us, figuring out how best to cater for that need. That just makes your lives, your worlds, more complex. In the past, you needed to more or less worry about 1,300, 500 unit trust funds in South Africa. Suddenly you have a choice of 40, 50, 60,000 unit trust funds to choose from because the world is just completely open to us. But the one that I thought I'll have a bit of fun and spend a moment on, and I have a complete millennial as an assistant to help me with my presentation, and then she put this up and she said that one of the trends I have to talk about is the fact that over $500 million has been invested in real estate in the metaverse last year. I had to go Google metaverse. I felt too bad to ask her what it was. And then luckily a week or so later, there was actually a whole carte blanche program on the metaverse. Now that is the metaverse. Literally a 4D, 5D virtual reality world that is not real. It exists in the air somewhere, and you can buy real estate in it. The prediction is that this year, it will actually double, and more than $1 billion will be spent by people buying these assets in this metaverse. Like, how could we ever even have imagined something like that? A more favorite one that I want to share with you is actually non-fungible token or NFT art. Again, something that we could never have imagined. The story I want to tell you, and you can see it there, it's one version of 3,333 long necky ladies. Now, where does this come from? A 13-year-old girl called Nyla Hayes have actually started making these drawings. Her mum obviously contacted someone and they kind of put it online. The most expensive one sold a little while ago for $11,000. In the last year and a half, she's become one of the youngest multimillionaires in the world. Her whole 3,333 of these long necky ladies is worth, I think, something like $3.4 million. Like, who would think that? We think Pierre Neef and Maggie Loebscher, and we hang them on our walls, and suddenly this is taking over the world. Then the regulatory burden. And again, this is not something I want to spend much time on today, but we know that with every piece of new regulation that comes out, it puts an enormous pressure on you and your practice. A year or so ago, we did an estimate in our own business that more than 80% of our IT development time was actually being spent on keeping up with regulation, things that add no value. I'm sorry, there might be people in here that will crucify me for that, but add no value. It doesn't give us a better client value proposition. It doesn't help us to refine our products. It doesn't help us with service. All it does is it puts stumbling blocks in our way. And I know that every one of you experience that on a daily basis in your practices. And no wonder more and more of you are looking at advisor networks to join them, not just to help you with kind of DFM services and well, compliance, I suppose, is one of the reasons why a lot of you just say, it doesn't make sense for me to keep this infrastructure going, let me join an advisor network. And then the last one, I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on that one right at the end, is just again this kind of changing behavior, changing expectations. And the one number that I wanted to share with you is that the Morningstar research have shown that today there's a 40% disconnect between what clients value in their advisors and what you as advisors actually spend your time on. I'm going to unpack that for you. It's quite interesting, that piece of research right at the end. And then lastly, maybe just a thought or two on what we call behavior tax, other people will call the behavior gap that there is. And that is the value that clients destroy by making emotional decisions about their investments. So, digital disruption shaping the industry. I want to put it stronger. I think digital has completely disrupted our industry. And this is only the beginning. It's not going to reverse. So here's some research for you again. Annual Technology and Business Survey that is now in its 13th year of being published have shown that advisors have seen a 40% increase in the number of technology kind of systems and things that you've started to adapt and use in your practice. And that only in the last 2 years. The most interesting one that we're very proud of, because I think in South Africa we were at the forefront of that, is what we call M-Sign. So the most adopted piece of technology over the last 2 years for advisors is actually the one where your client can sign an application form or any of the compliance forms that you send them without having to print it out, by actually just doing PIN and doing it completely securely. The second one, 25% at the beginning of COVID of advisors were indicating that they thought it was possible to use Zoom and Teams and kind of online systems to connect with their client. That has shot up to 90%. Of you now being quite comfortable to do online meetings and engagements with your clients. And then again, another one, it's another 40 to 45%. And this is the virtual financial advisor. This is the McKinsey research that was done that have shown that between 40 to 45% of affluent clients over the last year who switched their wealth manager have switched to one that allow them to deal directly without the help of an advisor. And I think we do need to keep that in mind, because it's not just us changing, our clients are changing the way they do business and expect us to do business with them. This is about you. This is a piece of research that was done, Kits's report that was done actually in the UK and in the US, and it have actually looked at how advisors spend their time. Now, it might not be entirely true for how you spend your time, but let's just go through it. The average time that an advisor spent on admin and other tasks, 40%. Only 10% on investment management. That is quite a worrying number, especially if I show you later what clients are expecting from you in terms of that role. Client activities take up 50% of an advisor's time across many, many practices. But of that 50, only 30% is spent on physically meeting with clients, and the other 70% is spent on preparation. Now, again, if you look at that, you don't even see space there for you to deal with your people, to build a more sustainable practice, to grow your practice. It seems that all the time is literally just spent on a lot of administration and not so much on being able to be in front of and meet with your clients. However, just kind of think about it a little bit differently. And this is a piece of research that was done in the US, and it's called the US Advisor Metrics Report, which actually interviewed what they call heavy technology using advisor firms, and have looked at how they spend their time. They took what you can see on the left, and they tested that with heavy technology users. And these heavy technology users have actually reported that they now spend 34% less time on resolving client queries, because actually clients are able to resolve it themselves. 24% more time for practice management and growth of your practice, and then reported double the average assets under management. And interestingly, most of those assets came from existing clients because it enabled the advisor to spend more time on the stuff that you really care about, being the opportunity to meet with and get to your clients. So what could technology help you do? Focus on financial advice, help you run a far more sustainable and scalable practice, and then lastly, it even enhances your client experience. Because actually, gone are the days when your assistant in the back office need to spend hours filling out forms and following up on things. If it's straight through processed, not only is your client experience much better, it leads to a saving in cost and definitely a saving in time for you. Now this, you know, is the message that every single wealth manager and asset manager always give you. And I thought to try and make it a little bit more real. This statement that we always make that says, fund picking destroy client returns. Is that even true? So what we've done is, we took the Momentum Wealth platform and we looked at the returns of advisors. So we took every single advisor practice and we plotted the returns that advisor practices got for their clients over the last 10 years on our platform. And here's the scary number. Only 39% of advisors on average managed to get CPI plus 3. Over the 10 years, CPI was 5.03, let's say 5%. Where 61% of clients, advisors, actually didn't even manage to get more than CPI plus 2 for their clients. Now imagine your client in a living annuity, drawing an income, and not even being able to either protect their capital or maintain that income. So it is real that fund picking no longer should be the main focus of you as an advisor in a complex world that just doesn't make sense. And remember back, 10% of your time, advisors in general, are being spent on fund research. No wonder that there is such a discorrelation between a correlation between time spent and actually clients not doing so well. And this, for me, leads into why it makes sense that you start to think about, consider bringing a discretionary fund manager as a partner into your business. My colleague Flobella Yates is here today. She'll share with you a lot more about our value proposition in that sense. And this really just kind of in general leads you into it. But why? Let me give you some numbers of why it makes sense to have a DFM as a partner in your practice. And this is a study that was done by Rathbones in the UK. And the UK, by the way, and you can see the number there, just through COVID, the 2 years have increased from 42% of UK advisors having a DFM as a partner to 56%. So there's a clear move of more and more advisors saying, I cannot do this myself, I need a partner to help me. 70% of advisors who've adopted or brought in a DFM as a partnership have actually declared that they've seen an increase in their client performance. 66% of advisors said there's an improved risk-return profile for my clients. And the great one that I think you need to consider is that 60% of advisors said my revenue from my existing clients have actually increased quite considerably. So those are the numbers if you need to kind of see them. But why does it make sense to have a DFM? Well, they help you to navigate this complex landscape. It's all they do. Their role is to research, to bring together all of the research to help you navigate this very complex landscape. Client and advisor outcomes, diversified portfolios, and portfolios tailor-made for you and your practice, your clients and your client needs. It's not just a one-size-fits-all approach. Reduce risk, the advice risk that you reduce in your practice by bringing a partner like this into that practice is indisputable. And then lastly, more and more, it becomes far more of a business partnership that help you run a better practice, that help you with that development, that help you with compliance, practice management, and so forth. And then I want to get to the favorite part for me of my presentation, and it's the one that says, not only do we believe fund picking per se destroy value, but also this, what we call the behavior tax. Behavior tax is simply the difference between the returns you could have had and the returns that your client did get because of emotional decisions that they've made, and especially in times of turmoil. And Himne Landman, my colleague here, will share with you a lot more about how to use data and how we can support you by using data, and share some of what we've seen on our platform over the last 2 years. But if you do yourself a favor, this is a fantastic, really, really fantastic report. In fact, a month ago, I had a 22-minute interview with Ryk van die Kerk on MoneyWeb on this very topic. And I was overwhelmed by the responses that we received from people. We have the recording if you're interested in it. But literally what it is all about is simply those decisions that gets made by clients. And here, unfortunately, I have to say, and their advisors. On our platforms, clients don't deal directly with us. They deal through advisors. So if we saw these kinds of behaviors, advisors were part of that. It's called the Momentum Sci-Fi Report. Have a look, search for it on our website. It is fantastic. It's 40 pages, but I promise you, it's one of the best reports on client behavior that I've ever read. But let me tell you the story here. So really what it says is, and we've used the research and the data to construct what we call client archetypes, or client kind of personality types. And there's 4 that I wanted to share with you. And the numbers you see there are the behavior tax, or the reduction in returns that these different clients have actually experienced throughout the COVID period. We have the avoider. That client has got a very low risk tolerance, so they really do not have a lot of exposure to high risk assets. But you will see that they act out of extreme fear the moment that they see that there's any volatility in the market. And that cohort of clients have destroyed 1.1% of returns just in the year of COVID. Quite a kind of a high impact. Anxious client. The anxious client is the one that's fearful. And they will specifically, so they have access or they have exposure to more risky assets, but what they will do is the moment they see any form of prolonged underperformance, they have an extreme reaction to that. They destroyed 3% in 1 year, 3% of returns by actually doing switches right at the wrong time. It gets worse, unfortunately. The assertive client is the self-confident one. He's the one that believes that no matter what happens, they make the right decisions. They're also the ones that's less likely to actually follow the advice of their advisor, so they're probably your nightmare client as well. 4.1% of returns destroyed on the Momentum platform by these clients over that year. And then the last one is the market timer, all of our worst nightmare. Why? Because this behavior perpetuates. They follow the top performer, they switch out right at the bottom. And what's the worst of this? No one ever have the confidence to switch back in after a bad experience or at the bottom of the market as we should. And you can see 5% of these returns that's been destroyed. Now think about this. Think about the statements we made about fund picking and how that has been destroying value. Bring it together and realize why it is that in extreme market conditions like what we have experienced over the last 2 years, our clients really do not come out, looking great or feeling great about their investments. And then the last statement I'll just make here is the value of behavioral coaching aspect. That is the role you play. The role you play, and this is also research that was done in the US, have shown that the role of the advisor can add 2% on average per annum by calming your client down, getting them to not show these behavior or at least act on it. That role that you have as a coach and as a mentor to help them keep them calm, keep them focused on their plan in the long run. And then lastly, and I think you'll find this very interesting, and this is the Morningstar research that I referred to right up front. I'll give you a moment to read through the 15 roles that's there. So what did Morningstar do? And they did this throughout the world. They listed 15 things that in their views, and I suppose they also got input from advisors, was important roles that advisors play. And I'm sure if you look at that, you know that you try and do all of those. Then they interviewed clients and they said, on rank for us, from 1 to 15, what you value most and expect of your advisor, and then they asked advisors to do the same. Now, in none of the other venues, anyone was brave enough to shout out what they thought clients would value most. Maybe today's different. So if anyone want to shout out what you think clients chose as most valuable, okay, you can tell me afterwards. But let me tell you what it was. Advisors said, we think clients will value most that I understand my client and their unique needs. Guess what? Clients said, help me reach my financial goals. That's what I want you to do. It's great that you understand me. It's great, all of these things. I have goals. You need to help me reach them. But here's what I found fascinating. Help me to maximize investment returns was rated 4th by investors and 14 out of 15 by financial advisors. Let's not underestimate that that's how we are measured by our clients in the end of the day. No matter what I do, no matter how I drive you insane, Mr. Advisor, you need to help maximize my investment returns. The two that I think is the way of the future, and clearly neither advisors nor clients really even realize that yet, is help me stay in control of my emotions. All of what I've shared with you this morning is actually about helping clients to make better decisions, have more healthy relationships with their money, and not do stupid things in tough times. And I believe that is what we as advisors and what we as partners need to help each other on that journey. And then lastly, being my coach and mentor, helping clients stay focused on their plan, be that coach and mentor that kind of keep them focused and keep them on the way. So to end off, I always end with a quote, and this one by Warren Buffett. Should you find yourself in a chronically leaking boat, energy devoted to changing vessels is likely to be more productive than energy devoted to patching leaks. And I think that's where we find ourselves. We need to change vessels. We need to think very differently about the world of not just financial advice, but wealth management and the role that we play. I thank you. I'm going to hand you over to my colleague Andrew, and then thanks again for being here with us.